The rules for noun phrases primarily involve their relationships with adjectives and verbs. We will see that they are also related to the rules for pronouns. The term noun is based on a Latin word which means name. The rules of Latin grammar were initially considered applicable to English, but that gradually changed. Nouns are names of things. Most words are nouns. They provide us with ways to refer to a wide variety of things. They can be abstract, like time, or physical, like a river, man-made, like a car, or living like a dog, and human like a man. These examples are classified as common nouns. Proper nouns for these same types of things are Tuesday, the Nile, Toyota, Snoopy, and Bob. Proper nouns must always be capitalized. Common nouns have a singular and a plural form. The plural form for practically all nouns is to simply add an S suffix, as in one girl, two girls. However, there are a small number of irregularly formed plural nouns. For example, one child, two children, one person, two people. Note that sometimes the plural form of person is formed by adding an S. Do an online search for missing persons and you will see the phrase. However, unless you are referring to a specific type of person, like a missing person, you should use the irregular form, people. Nouns that can be either singular or plural are also a source of errors. Consider the nouns sheep, deer, and fish. The phrase two sheeps is incorrect. The examples shown here are only a partial list, but there are not many more. There are a relatively small number of uncountable nouns. These are primarily abstract things, categories of things, or things whose quantities need more specific units. For example, we can't say two advices or two monies. Pronouns are considered a different part of speech from nouns. The prefix pro means in place of. Personal pronouns are some of the most common examples, and they provide the simplest illustration of the rules of subject-verb agreement. Relationships of predication are dependent on the form of the verb agreeing with the person and number of the subject. The first-person pronouns are I, me, we, and us. I and we are used for subjects. They are said to be in the subjective case, while me and us are in the objective case. There's only one second-person pronoun, you. Some people use the word y'all for the plural form. Y'all is a contraction of the two words you all, so it should be written with an apostrophe. Y'all is primarily used in oral English and informal correspondence, but not in academic papers. The third-person pronouns typically refer to people who are not present or to things. The singular third-person pronouns are it, he, she, him, and her. The plural forms are they and them. The verb to be has the most irregular forms, and using the correct form in combination with subjective cases of these pronouns is an essential skill for speaking English. The second person you and all the plural pronouns are combined with the forms are and were. We are, you are, they are. We were, you were, they were. The first and third person singular forms are am, is, and was. I am, I was, he is, she was. In order to understand a number of grammatical rules, you need to take note of how subject-verb agreement works when third-person singular subjects are combined with present tense verbs. The person and number of a subject have no effect on past tense verbs, but in the present tense, all verbs that combine with the third-person singular must end with the letter S. We say, I work, we work, you work, y'all work, and they work. But we say, it is, he talks, and she works. All irregular present tense verbs must also end with an S to combine with a third person singular subject. He has, she does. Uncountable nouns are considered third person singular. Money isn't everything. No news is good news. The pronoun that causes the most common subject-verb agreement mistakes is there. The spatial adverb in we went there might be the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word there, but I'm referring to the existential there. As a subject, it can take either the singular or plural forms of linking verbs. There's a place. There are times. The number of things there represents is determined by the noun phrase which follows it. Often people will use there is with a plural noun phrase. This might be due to the fact that they usually use the contraction of theirs, as in, there is times when I make mistakes. Note that a common spelling error is the confusion of the contraction of they are, there, with the possessive their stuff, and the existential there are. People make mistakes with the cases of pronouns as often as they do with the subject-verb agreement. Consider the question, who did he invite? The subject of the question is the pronoun he, which is in the subjective case. But the pronoun who is the object of the question, and its objective case is whom. Using who in object questions is so common that you could argue that, like the pronoun you, who can be used for either the subjective or objective case. However, when it immediately follows the preposition for as an object, it's necessary to use the traditional whom. You could ask, who are you waiting for? But we'd ask, for whom are you waiting? An unquestionable common mistake is the use of the first person objective case pronoun me in a subject. Now, only a small child would say something like, me want a donut. But it is not at all uncommon for people to use the compound phrase you and me as a subject. Consider, you and me are next. In this type of error, me is usually the second noun. But native speakers also regularly say sentences like, me and Fred went shopping. It's easy to persuade people that this is an error because they would never say, me went shopping. However, by making an effort to avoid this error, students tend to make the opposite mistake. They use the subjective case when the objective is required. It's actually quite common for students to use I as the object of prepositions and verbs. Consider the statement, the benefit for you and I is obvious. Again, this error almost always occurs in compound noun phrases. You'd rarely hear someone say, the benefit for I is obvious. Pronoun case errors in comparisons are not as clear-cut. Consider they aren't as old as you or I, but he's taller than me. The words as and than are connectors that can form prepositions or subordinating conjunctions. The words as you or I are considered an elliptical clause. It would be redundant and wordy to say, they aren't as old as you or I are old, but that is the meaning. However, most teachers would allow you to write as you or me, especially since you end the sentence with than me. In fact, to be consistent, you should either say, he isn't as old as you or me, but he's taller than me, or he isn't as old as you or I, but he's taller than I am. If your teacher has a preference, it will be to use the subjective case I. However, the next sentence is different. Consider the teacher gave her a higher grade than I. The implied meaning of the elliptical clause is the teacher gave her a higher grade than I gave her. If the intended meaning is the teacher gave her a higher grade than she gave me, then using the subjective case I would be an error. The correct case for a pronoun which functions as a subject complement is also a gray area. Subject complement is a popular term for a predicate noun that follows a linking verb. If someone called me on the phone and said, "Hello, can I speak with Ted?" And I said, "This is Ted." The name Ted is an example of a subject complement. It actually complements the verb is, not the subject, but it and the pronoun this both refer to the same person. That's why it's coded with a dotted underline. This is the reasoning why an equivalent statement should be, "This is he." More native speakers would actually say, "This is him." If I knocked on a friend's door who was expecting me and I heard her ask, "Who is it?" I would similarly reply, "It's me," not "It is I." I think if two people were at the door and answered this question by saying, "It is we," the subjective case would sound even more inappropriate. I stand by my disagreement with the term subject complement. The term is useful for distinguishing this part of a sentence from an object. It's often presented along with the term object complement, which would be used to refer to the word friend in "she considers him a friend." However, object complement also isn't the standard meaning of complement. Both him and the friend are in fact complements of the verb considers. Like the name Ted, the word friend is a predicate noun here. Personal pronouns can also be in the possessive case. They are based on the possessive modifiers my, our, your, its, his, her, and their. Most of the possessive pronouns are formed by adding either an S for the subjective objective cases and self or selves for the intensive reflexive cases. Adding S to my doesn't work phonetically, so we add an N, mine. But S does the job for ours, yours, his, hers, and theirs. Note that both the singular and plural pronouns could refer to either one thing or two things. For example, I have two pets. They have one. Mine are cats. Theirs is a dog. In addition to subjects, these pronouns can all function as objects. Pronouns ending in self or selves can form either intensive or reflexive pronouns. More errors are made with reflexive pronouns. The pronoun and the subject should refer to the same thing. A correct example is, "The child made herself a sandwich." The statement, "The teacher praised Bob and myself," is incorrect. Myself doesn't refer to the subject. You should say, "The teacher praised Bob and me." "Only she and yourself appreciate us," is also incorrect. Reflexive pronouns can't function as subjects. It should be, "Only she and you appreciate us." Sentences like, "As for myself, I will never forget her," are technically not incorrect. The reflexive pronoun refers to the same person as the subject, but the objective case is recommended. "As for me, I will never forget her." However, the pronoun myself is the only correct option in "I ate lunch today by myself." In the sentence, "Fiona's father, Phil, does not approve of her classmate Fred," the names Phil and Fred are forming appositives. They give us more information about the noun phrase they follow. Phil is separated from its noun phrase by commas. Fred is not. To understand why, let's remove all the modifiers. Father does not approve of classmate. We don't know who this sentence is talking about. What if we just leave out Phil and Fred? Fiona's father does not approve of her classmate. Fiona only has one father. but she has many classmates. The classmate her father disapproves of could be identified in a previous sentence. But without one, the phrase her classmate is an incomplete identification. This is why there is no comma between classmate and Fred. In the next sentence, the headmaster himself gave her the first prize, a full scholarship. We see that the appositive phrase, a full scholarship, is separated by a comma from the first prize because it is not needed to identify what the headmaster gave her. Likewise, we don't need the pronoun himself to identify who gave the first prize. However, himself is an intensive pronoun. It adds emphasis to the identification. Intensive pronouns can be omitted, but they are never separated by commas. They also don't need to immediately follow their noun phrase the way appositives do. Consider the child made the sandwich herself. It has the same meaning as the child herself made the sandwich. There are important differences between adjectives that are classified as determiners and descriptive adjectives. Determiners are classified as a separate part of speech in some grammars. Notice that we can classify both determiners and descriptive adjectives into subclasses. Determiner subclasses are pre-quantifiers, articles, demonstratives, possessives, and post-quantifiers. We will consider the descriptive adjectives later. Mastering the rules for articles is an essential skill for written English. The three articles are a, an, and the. The zero article means no article is used. Common nouns in the plural form can take the zero article or the. Examples are I like cookies and give me the cookies. The is always used for specific things. When a thing is specific or specified, the listener is expected to be able to identify it from similar things. For singular common nouns, we use a for non-specific things. When we say a cookie, we indicate there is nothing specific about it. Consider the statement, he gave me a cookie. However, after making that statement, something specific about it is known. He gave me a cookie, and that was the best cookie I ever tasted. Some more examples of non-specific versus specific are, ask me a question about anything. The question he asked was, pick a card, any card. The card you picked is. Some things are specific just by context. For example, your apartment roommate could say, call the landlord, the refrigerator isn't working. You and your roommate only have one landlord and one refrigerator. Some students think the rule for using the article "and" is based on whether a noun's first letter is a vowel. The rule is actually whether the noun or following adjective begins with a vowel sound. Consider a yo-yo, a university, an island, and an honest man. Words beginning with the vowel U can begin with a vowel sound, like an umbrella, or with a consonant sound, like a unicorn. The article rules for proper nouns of places are a little different than other proper nouns. Names of people, days, months, companies, and restaurants will take the zero article unless we need to distinguish it from someone or thing with the same name. Names of places and their languages are also mostly used without an article. Examples are visit Spain, made in China, speak English, cross Main Street, leave London, near Lake Erie, saw Mount Rushmore, locate Easter Island. However, we use the for the names of nations that are plural and end with an S, like the Netherlands, the Philippines, and for grouped place names like the Great Lakes, the Rocky Mountains, the Republic of France, and the Hawaiian Islands. We also use the to refer to the names of rivers, oceans, and seas, such as the Nile, the Pacific, and the Red Sea. There are a few singular common nouns whose meaning will change without an article. Go to a church or go to the church doesn't mean the same thing as go to church. Saying I went to the college means you visited the campus. Saying I went to college means you attended classes. Abstract and uncountable nouns can be used without an article. Examples are time goes by, take action, I need money, too much salt is unhealthy. Both the and the articles can be used with abstract nouns, but like plural nouns, we only use the with specific uncountable nouns, as in show me the money, pass the salt. Determiners can be classified according to whether they can only be used with countable or uncountable and abstract nouns. Some determiners can be used with every type of noun. We must either ask how many times or how much time. But we can say 2 more times and I need more time. Likewise, we ask how many dollars or how much money. But we can say more dollars and more money. The subclasses of determiners refer to how they can be combined. Without a coordinating conjunction, only one pre-quantifier can be used. If one is used, it should come first. It can be followed by only one main determiner. Main determiners include articles, demonstratives, and possessives. Finally, just one or two post-quantifiers can be added without a conjunction. Examples are half a mile and all my stuff, in which one pre-quantifier is combined with one main determiner. In the last few cookies and those first 10 points, one main determiner has been combined with two post-quantifiers. Many determiners also form pronouns, and most of these are either singular or plural. A few can be either. Notice how the prepositional phrases after the pronoun all change its number. All of the students have done their homework. All of the water has leaked from its container. The pronoun everybody can refer to a great many people, but like everyone, somebody, anybody, and nobody, it always forms a singular subject. Consider, everybody in our class is here today. The meanings of personal pronouns are provided in previous clauses with either common nouns or proper nouns. The meanings of indefinite pronouns can similarly be provided by antecedents, but they can also be provided by phrases and adjectives that follow them. For example, do you have anything to eat in the house? The boss gave me something important to do. Unlike determiners, descriptive adjectives represent characteristics of the nouns they modify. Descriptive adjectives used in noun phrases are called attributive, and those that complement verbs are called predicative. A few adjectives can only be used in noun phrases, such as live, in live animals, and indoor, as an indoor grill. Likewise, some adjectives can only be used in verb phrases. Consider alive and asleep in the animal is alive but asleep. We can, however, say a broadcast or the music was live. Whether adjectives are used to modify nouns or complement verbs, there is an accepted order for combining them. It's more flexible than the order of determiners, but some should always follow others. There are at least 10 kinds of characteristics: opinion, size, age, shape, color, temperature, state, origin, material, and type. That sequence is also the order in which they should be combined. Note that although nouns can modify other nouns as adjectives, such as campus activities, business suit, Other nouns combine to form compound nouns. Consider spring fever and sports car. The meaning of fever in spring fever is not the same as a high fever, and the meaning of sports in sports car is not the same as play sports. You can find these two phrases listed as nouns in dictionaries. Notice that two commas are used to separate the three adjectives in the noun phrase, the cute, short, blonde girl, as well as the phrase of the tall, dark, handsome guy. But wait, isn't handsome an opinion adjective like cute? Shouldn't it be the first adjective? Is the handsome, tall, dark guy more correct? The order of coordinate adjectives is flexible. Adjectives are considered to be coordinate if the conjunction and can be used to separate them without changing the meaning. For example, the handsome and tall and dark guy. Any of these adjectives can be placed at the end of the series to give it emphasis. If you were to say the short, blonde, cute girl, it would indicate that you thought her cuteness was her most important characteristic. The rules for commas between cumulative adjectives are different. Consider the deep, dark blue ocean. A comma should not be placed between dark and blue because they are cumulative adjectives. It would also be an error to change the order and say the blue, dark, deep ocean because the meaning would be unclear. There are no commas in that bright red sports car. Bright red is a cumulative and sports is not an adjective. It's part of the compound noun sports car. Note that swimming and hiking form nouns as gerunds and that leather can also form a noun. In the phrase, her stunning yellow swimming suit, a comma should not be placed between yellow and swimming because swimming refers to the type of suit. Adjectives for materials and type always follow other adjectives. Note that no commas are placed in his dirty leather hiking boots and that the meaning of his hiking leather dirty boots is unclear and incorrect. Sometimes the only adjectives we can combine with common nouns to identify what we were talking about are prepositional phrases. Consider the car in the driveway is hers and she parked in the driveway. We can also use determiners to make identifications based on location, but there must be a context. If you say, this car is hers and that one is mine, it implies that the car which is closer to you is hers. Prepositional phrases are as essential for noun phrases as they are for verb phrases. We'll talk more about prepositions and the rules for verb phrases. Note that prepositional phrases can either be sequenced or nested. The phrases in The Students of English in grade 2 are sequenced. The phrases in The Students in the School of Music are nested. Note that in the sequenced phrases, of English is placed closer to the noun because it refers to a type of student. The order of nested phrases cannot be changed without completely changing or losing the meaning. There are also a few irregular comparative and superlative adjectives like bad, worse, and worst. However, most are formed with suffixes for one-syllable words and two-syllable words ending with the letter Y. All others must use the modifiers more and most or less and least. Consider big, bigger, biggest, happy, happier, happiest. Famous, more famous, most famous. We often use the connectors than and as in comparisons. I mentioned that even though these words can form both prepositions or conjunctions, they are often considered conjunctions in comparisons. And the sentence, he bet more than $100 that Bob is stronger than I am. Than $100 is a prepositional phrase, and than I am is an elliptical clause. In as a rule, trucks are not as fast as sports cars. As a rule is a prepositional phrase. And as sports cars is an elliptical clause. A the article usually must be placed before superlative adjectives. She is the most famous chef in LA. A personal possessive can be used instead. Her most famous dish is avocado ravioli. Notice that the word most is coded with a dashed underline because it is modifying famous. Most does not need a the in most famous chefs own restaurants because it's not modifying famous. It's a quantifying determiner here for the plural noun chefs. Comparatives and superlatives with less and least follow the same rules. She is less famous than Papa John. Also notice that the word different is not a comparative adjective. Some teachers think it should be combined with the preposition from as opposed to the preposition than. I would recommend saying different from the rest, but different than the rest is not an error. We also use different with as. They're as different as night and day. ColorCodedEnglish.com is a website designed for early readers and ESL students. It offers free apps to learn phonics, vocabulary, and grammar. Please take a look and tell any students you know